Well, the Premier called it an historic occasion, an end to Queensland's 40-year-old gerrymander. Legislation to enable a total redistribution of electorates was approved by Cabinet today. It should be before Parliament by the end of the week. The actual boundaries will be drawn up later in the year by an independent commissioner. Today, the Premier spoke in glowing terms about the new laws, saying, and I quote, "They enshrine the concept of one vote, one value," unquote. Well, not quite. The fact is, effectively, Queensland is not getting one vote, one value, but a two-zonal system. Voters in some remote parts of the state will find their vote worth more than those in other parts of the state. It's a compromise the Labor Party says it's prepared to accept, in line with the recommendations of EARC, the Electoral and Administrative Review Commission. But many in the ALP are unhappy with the decision, including the party's own parliamentary committee set up to oversee EARC's work. Earlier today, we asked the Secretary of the Queensland Labor Party, Swan, to debate the issue with Chris Griffith from the Watchdog Committee, which has described the government's decision as hypocritical and a disgrace. Mr. Swan, if I could ask you first, the ALP for years fought for one vote, one value. It was very much a part of the political rhetoric. Why now are you prepared to accept less than that?
Well, we have achieved one vote, one value, except we haven't achieved it in all of the seats. We've achieved it in 84 out of the 89 seats. And during the state election campaign, Wayne Goss and all his candidates, including the Labor Party organisation, promised that we would implement fully the recommendations of EARC. We're disappointed that EARC has not chosen to recommend one vote, one value in 89 seats. Instead, they've recommended it in 84. But nevertheless, we made a pledge to the people of Queensland, and if we want to have public trust in the government, in the electoral system, if we want to end the abuse of parliamentarians rigging the system, drawing the boundaries, then we have to support the EARC recommendations.
But surely you, as an ALP official, should be pursuing ALP policy.
Yes, I am, and I will continue to pursue ALP policy.
But you didn't in this regard.
Well, I'm sorry, you have misquoted the report, as have many other people. We continue to support one vote, one value, but we were required to make a judgment about the totality of EARC's recommendations. EARC has recommended an independent electoral commission. They recommended substantially one vote, one value with a minor departure, and all of the things that Chris Griffith and I have fought for over the years have been recommended with one minor variation. We had to take a judgment about what the package means, and we think that it will produce a fair electoral outcome. It means, in practice, only one extra seat in Western and far northern Queensland if we didn't have one vote, one value.
Well, Mr. Griffiths, he says it's just a minor variation. You obviously don't agree with that.
Not at all. You either have one vote, one value, or you don't have one vote, one value. We've got a situation now where we're going to have the electorates in the west of Queensland, some of which will have votes worth twice those of the rest of the state. What we want to see is equitable elections with people having an equal say in determining the outcome of that election. And that's not what this particular system is going to bring about.
But what's going to be the effect of this? The government says it won't have much effect.
Well, it'll have an effect in a couple of seats. Probably 6 seats in all will be involved in the weighting of votes. But that can have an effect on the outcome of the election. We have a situation in South Australia, for example, where the Bannon government is elected with a 1-seat majority. It depends on the support of 2 independent Labor members to govern. So we've got to be able to get election results that give the fair result. We can't say that 1 or 2 seats either way is good enough.
So you're saying this will leave the system open to abuse, and that's what we're supposed to be getting rid of?
Exactly. In fact, it's not me who's saying that, it's the EARC Parliamentary Committee report that's saying that. And we're concerned that now the government and Cabinet have looked at the legislation, it's not taking any notice of those concerns expressed in that EARC Parliamentary Committee report. For example, the legal standing of EARC's recommendation for weightage, the fact that the Parliamentary Committee found the formula as arbitrary, and also that it regarded that there was other ways of assisting members servicing remote electorates. So none of those particular concerns were taken into account by Cabinet today, and we're disappointed.
But it's a fait accompli, isn't it, really? There's not much you can do about it now.
Well, it's a fait accompli if the government decides it's a fait accompli. As far as we're concerned, the debate's going to go on. In fact, the Parliamentary Committee report's showing that the debate needs to go on, and there has to be further changes to the electoral system.
Is there any chance of change, Mr. Swan?
Well, not in this term of the Goss Labor government, because the Premier gave his word, as did all Labor members of Parliament, that they would uphold the umpire's decision. I recall clearly during the election campaign being asked by people like Chris Griffith to commit the Labor Party to following the umpire's decision. Now, it's a sad day for Mr Griffith and a sad day for many of us when the umpire decided to do something that we didn't want it to do. But if we're going to have some faith in this electoral system and people are going to believe that the government is not interfering in that process, then the decision had to be upheld. It's a disappointment to me as much as it is a disappointment to Chris. But that's what independent arbiters are for, and the government has upheld the arbiter's decision.
Well, I'd like to correct Wayne Swan on one point there, and that is that before the election, the group I was associated with sent surveys to all members of Parliament and all candidates asking for their commitment not to the Fitzgerald process but to one vote, one value. And we've even got a submission or we've even got a survey back from the Premier basically giving that commitment. So that's not the case. And we went, in terms of the election, before the election, we were quite clear on our commitment to one vote, one value.
We're going to have to leave it there. Thanks very much, both of you, for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And late this afternoon, Liberal leader Denver Beanland announced that the Liberals will move for a one vote, one value amendment in state parliament. That will mean the Labor government may actually have to vote against its own party policy. Well, that's all from us tonight. I hope you'll join us again tomorrow night. Good night.